I was up all night thinking about this.
Well, it certainly is coming from our hearts, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking about this subject and the importance of having it out there in the world for
That's
everyone
right.
to consider and to take in the information.
That's right. And so as we're just letting people in, again, we just ask that you say hello in the chat.
Yes.
Let us know where you're from. And also to begin with, I do want to make certain that everyone keeps their microphones off unless you are a speaker, in which case, you can turn your microphone on, obviously, when it's your time to speak. But everyone in the audience, please keep your microphones off. And I also want you to know that if your video is on, you are automatically giving us permission to record you, and you will be publicized as we share this recording. So if you don't want your camera on, please go ahead and turn that off. We can still see that you're here, and of course we can feel your presence.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So welcome to the Heart-Centered Woman. This is Live with Marcy and Amy. This is a monthly live stream that we put together every month for women to really connect with us and with these beautiful experts that we have on our panel each month, so that you get to really open up new possibilities and get different perspectives in life and for life. Because, in this day and age, it's so important for us to really hear really informative perspectives from women who are walking the walk, who are there to support you, and women just like you.
That's
and
right.
So this is our passion, Marcy, and we have this huge passion to be heart-centered in our life, and to offer that to our listeners and to our community, and then that also goes out to the bigger world, right, Marcy?
That's right. That's right. And so today, as you know, we have an incredible theme. Our theme today is partnership still relevant? A deep dive into what we're gaining, what we're losing, and what we might be forgetting. So with that, I'd love to introduce our panel. Amy, do you want to start that off?
Yeah. So Paulina, why don't you unmute yourself and tell us about you and how you what you do in your life and your business and how you support people.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. It's a privilege. I love all the events that you put together, just creating so much value for women in the world. I'm Paulina Solda, dating coach and AO style expert. I use the personality typing system in my approach to help women find the right man for them. And I live in New York City with my family and my partner, my soulmate, my husband of over 13 years now. And it's an honor to be here. So thank you so much for having me. And Dr. Jane, I would love to ask you to introduce yourself. I know you work with partners and individuals, helping them with their sexuality and passion in their relationship.
Yes, I am so honored and happy to be here. I'm Jane Gwynn, Dr. Jane, and I am in beautiful Bend, Oregon, which is in the center of Oregon, surrounded by volcanoes, which I think is particularly appropriate for the topic that I'm honored to discuss, everything underneath and waiting to kind of erupt in us. Yes, and my background is that I've been married almost 40 years. I have 6 grown children. The youngest just left the nest recently. And over time, people often ask me how I became a sex and relationship coach. And I say that it just was through my own experience, being a mom, working through all these things, walking the walk and talking the talk both. I've written a book called Too Busy to Get Busy. And I'm also a syndicated columnist for people who are interested in understanding intimacy. I'd like to pass the baton to my wonderful friend and colleague, Riana Milne. And Riana, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Coach Riana Milne. I'm from Palm Beach County, Florida. Loving it here. I have been in the mindset for success space for over 40 years. I've been teaching it. And in year 2000, I became a licensed mental health counselor with a specialty as a CCT, certified clinical trauma professional. So I help people heal from past childhood trauma wounds that always leads to love trauma, and help them to feel amazing about themselves. I am an author of 10 books, the #1 bestseller, Love Beyond Your Dreams, Break Free of Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve. And I have a podcast called Lessons in Life and Love with Coach Riana Milne. I've been very honored to be featured on Forbes magazine, Wealth Insider magazine, nominated me as one of the top 10 coaches to follow in 2022, and nominated as one of the top 100 successful women in the world. So I'm happy to be here with you all today and hope I can help you a whole lot. And I want to pass this over to Marcy. Marcy, are you doing a formal introduction? We know you are the heart shift coach, and you believe that self-love is a prerequisite for all that to be possible.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for, you can see we just have such an incredible panel today. So thank you all for being here. So as you know, I'm Marcy Newman. I'm known as a heart shift coach. My background also is that I've been in the field of helping people to heal their hearts for over 50 years. I started back actually as a registered nurse and spiritualist minister, trained in hands-on healing, mediumship, channeling, etc. And my career has been really just one that has evolved as I have evolved. And I now work with women exclusively, helping them to claim their authentic selves, to live from their hearts rather than their heads, and to cultivate the courage that it takes to create a self-love lifestyle. And as you've heard everyone say, not only to talk the talk, but to walk the walk. And so part of this program is, of course, that expression of the evolution of over 50 years in this field. So having said that, I'd like to ask you, Amy, to tell everyone about you and what you do. And let's get this party started.
Let's get it going. Yes, I'm Amy Shade. I am a women's life coach who really empowers women to shed these stories that are keeping them stuck. And I know we're going to talk about some of the stories and these constructs outside of ourselves that we get to let go of. I also reconnect women with their passions, because so many times in our life we've given up those passions and given away our own sense of self to other people. And so I really help women and support them into reconnecting with those passions so that they can really embody who they are, live out the life that they desire, and become the woman that they know that's inside of them. And I do this program with Marcy every month, this monthly program, to promote women and experts to also share all they have to give for our community. And I'm excited to be here. This is as I said, this particular show, there's only been a couple shows that have kept me up all night, and this is one of them. Because this is such an interesting topic, and it can go in so many directions, which is why we have so many different types of experts on here. I do want to kind of throw out some statistics, if it's okay, and that is, maybe about, is partnership still relevant? Might be, because when I graduated high school in 1986, 22% of women went to college. Now in 2022, 60% of women go to college. And so, of course, the dynamics are changing with us being more in higher education. Also, that our birth rate is going down. Women are opting out to not have kids anymore, to choose that option. Of course, things are shifting now. And the divorce rate is really high. And did you know that 70% of women actually end the marriage or partnership over men's 30%? So these are all some of the statistics that are changing in our lifetime, and how can we reinvent ourselves, and how can we rethink think these stories and really get into creating partnerships that we desire or choose not to be in partnership. This is what the conversation is about. And with that, I'm going to start with Paulina. And I'm going to ask you, Paulina, I know that you are a well sought after master level dating coach, right? You have over 12 years of experience in this field. And in the many of women over these years that you've worked with, have you seen a downward trend in the numbers of women searching for a partnership or the long-term partnerships? And if so, like what types of partnerships are they seeking out now?
Okay, so what I want to start with is that the demand for love, connection, and sharing our life with someone special is always there. So that will not change. It's something that I believe that we come to this world with mission to fulfill our individual goals and of course make impact in society, societal, and both are important. So what I see is that women always, the women who come to me, they have that desire. Now, it's true that we have other priorities and we have other opportunities that are available to us now with education, having our own business. And now, unlike in the past, it's really that our survival doesn't depend on like even just a few generations ago, right? We think about women that it's like men worked and then it's just a different model. Now, we don't need a man to survive, but we still have that need, the demand, that desire to be with someone and share our life is still, of course, there. And I believe that now we have more possibilities than ever. So what I see, the trend that I see is that 10 years ago, I was working mostly with women who were in their 30s, ready to get married, start a family. Now, the spectrum is so broad. One of my oldest clients, she just got engaged, she's 83. And so that's what's possible. So, and we can be highly educated, we can decide whether to have kids or not, but that desire to, I think especially when we reach, so in my, what inspired me, my story is that when I was dating in the big city, right, New York, and I know exactly all the ups and downs, all the struggle, then I found the right man for me, my husband. So I fulfilled my individual goal, but then it actually inspired me to start working with other women because I knew that the demand was there, the problem was there, and we solve it as experts, as master coaches, as published authors, absolutely. And what I see now is also global, so it's not just the age range broader, but also globally. Now, because of social media, I have people reaching out from Asia and Europe, and that's what's possible because they watch your TikTok or Instagram, they listen to your podcast. So it's timeless. The need for a partnership doesn't go away, and it will never will. And with that, should I be asking a question next? Remind me, right? Beth, or are we having a discussion about this? Or am I asking a question, Dr. Jane?
Yep.
Sorry. Okay, so now I understood the flow. It's been a while. So, okay, so Dr. Jane, you, of course, create magic in the field of fashion and, of course, sexuality. So the present trends that, so we've heard the statistics about the downward spiral. How does your experience gives us insight when it comes to sexuality and what might cause that downward spiral?
Thank you for that question, Paulina. It's such an important question, and I think very important for each and every one of us to think about, like, what is it that's causing us to kind of drift apart, if you will, just even societally. And there was an interesting article in the New York Times this week about this, specifically about how loneliness and sexlessness are on the upswing, and the title was something like "You need to have more sex," something like that. I find that saying that in my office isn't necessarily the most motivating thing, because what's happening here, in my view, and I love what you started with, Marcy, about this, and also what you were saying, Paulina and Amy, that we have had changes in the way that we experience being women. If I'm talking, this looks like we're a group of women here. It's so wonderful to talk just among sisters. We have higher expectations than maybe we had at other times. And so we are feeling our empowerment, and we don't want the kind of obligatory sexual experiences that perhaps were considered normal or typical in former times. And so we're in kind of a trapeze situation here where we're letting go. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity, or I found it terrifying when I did a trapeze thing at a Club Med once. But the thing with the trapeze is you hold on to the first trapeze piece, whatever that thing is called, and you fly across, and you have to trust that the other bar is going to be there. But there's a letting go between those two parts. And I believe that we're in that right now, the fear that if we let go and give ourselves to a sexual experience with another person, a beloved, someone we want to connect with, that we won't get what we're looking for. We won't have the kind of heart-centered, deeply connected sexual experience that we desire. And so we're holding on to that first bar, and we're deciding that, no, I'm not going to play that game because I know how this story ends. I've seen this rom-com and it's not for me. In fact, they're never for me, really. They're never really pulling the whole of me into the bedroom. I'm being used. Many people tell me, many women come and talk to me about how they're opting out. They're opting out in their marriages. They're opting out in many different parts of life related to sexual connection with another person, or even with ourselves, because it's not serving us. And I see this as honestly a powerful shift and a positive shift, because it's showing that in many ways we're trusting ourselves more. The key, though, for us is to figure out what it is we do want. So asking ourselves, what is it that I actually want? What is my desire, and how do I communicate that? We'll talk more about what's in the way of that as we go forward today. But we want to figure out how to get what we really want, and we deserve that. I'd like to talk to Riana a little bit and ask her a beautiful question about her work as a certified global life, love, trauma recovery, and mindset coach. And I know Riana's work. She does such gorgeous work in the world. Riana, why do so many singles struggle to find love, and so many couples can't sustain their relationships?
Okay, in 3 minutes or less. The problem is we were never taught the art and psychology of falling in love and relationship success. The only thing we know we have gone on is chemistry, which can be very dangerous, because what is happening, the brain likes homeostasis, meaning it likes what it knows. So if you grew up in a toxic environment, a family where there was a lot of struggle or arguing or fighting, your ability to handle an issue might be by arguing and yelling and fighting, because that was your norm. That was your behavioral patterns, right? So we were never really taught that. And there's a lot of research on attracting and having emotionally healthy, evolved, and conscious love. So that's what I'm teaching for people to really know what they're doing versus just going on that feeling. Oh, he's hot, I think I'll have him. And that's chemistry. And that's why so many people are failing. The first 90 days are hot, romantic, a lot of texting, blah, blah, blah. And then the research shows from 4 to 9 months in, toxic behavioral patterns start showing up. So the brain does not know good or bad attraction. It just knows what is normal to you. So if you had a hard childhood, with let's say, an alcoholic, demanding, angry father, you're more likely to attract that type of person into your life from chemistry. So we have to be really careful about chemistry. Plus, nobody really taught us how to communicate through an issue. There should never be any yelling or fighting within a relationship. Only if someone's in harm's way do you yell, like, watch out, and that's it. There's never a reason to yell at a partner or to be yelled at. So again, we need to teach these skills. And I do, this is one thing as a coach, for women to understand this is never acceptable. And it's important to be able to talk through issues because we are two individuals and we do need to know how to communicate and negotiate through an issue. The thing is, 100% of us, and this was found in 2021's research, do have childhood trauma. When I started this work in 2012, it was 90 out of 100 people could identify them as having childhood traumas. Now 100% of us do, which leads to love trauma. So it's important that we heal the dynamics of our childhood and any love trauma that came up in a prior relationship, so you're not taking that behavioral norms and patterns into a new relationship because they don't serve us. So it's really important to heal that and learn how to negotiate through an issue. So couples can't sustain because they're not able to talk with compassion, empathy, and love, understanding the dynamic of what trauma that their partner might have grown up with, and then the partner understanding them. There's three entities, right? Partner A, partner B in the relationship. So you have to work with all of them and really know how to communicate through all of that. So from that, I'm going to go to Marcy. Marcy, the downward trends for the relationship we're seeing around the globe, especially in women, are evidence of healing and realignment of their truth and part of the self-love journey, which is essential to heal, right? You have to find that. As I was talking, can you also talk about the self-love journey and the symptoms of breakdown and the refusal to heal?
So thanks so much for that, Riana. I'm loving where our conversation is going already. And I think that the important question is to really take a good look at, is what we are seeing a coming together, a healing, or is it a breakdown? And what Dr. Jane was saying with the trapeze, right? And that gap between where you're letting go and where you're reaching for what you want. We have to realize that in that gap is everything that we must tend to, right? And so what you were talking about, Riana, and with the discovery that each of us carries this trauma, I believe that what we're seeing, the basis of this trend, is actually that we are in a healing phase. And evidence of that is also how I look at how Amy's and my programming has unfolded in the past year. A few months ago, we had a program where we were talking about shifting out of the patriarchal model and the upheaval that has really cost, women in terms of needing to let go of who they were in order to become who they're meant to become fully empowered as we're all meant to be in this world. And Dr. Jane, you spoke about that also. It's where women are shifting out of the obligatory role and the models that were programmed into us. And we're saying, wait a second, we've been diminished like way too long. And that these roles, this patriarchal model, is no longer working for us. And in fact, we're also in this place of recognition, really realizing that there was part of it that was actually quite purposeful, right? It's kept us quiet, kept us sort of, out of the way and doing what was expected of us. Like Amy said in the beginning, it was more about, who are we to other people? And I think until we can really come to terms in our own hearts, taking that journey from the head to the heart and embracing ourselves for who we truly are and the gifts that we are meant to bring to this world, we cannot reach for what it is that we want. And yet, that reaching is so essential, because it's the difference between, well, crumbs and the whole cake, right? What I also think is so interesting too, and I don't know if anyone else has heard this, but Miley Cyrus just came out with a song called Flowers. And the lyrics go something like this. It's, and I wish I could play the song for you, but it's, I didn't want to leave you. I didn't want to lie. And I started to cry. And then I remembered, wait, I can buy my own flowers. I can write my name in the sand. I can talk to myself for hours. And I can say things that you don't understand. I can take myself dancing. I can hold my own hand, and I can love me better than you can. And I think that this is such a power statement, because once we learn that, then we can fully actually be available for relationship, because this is what we're meant to really glean, I think, from all of these experiences that society is handing to us, that is the result of our own heart's desires coming forward. So I'm just so fascinated by all of this, and how, you know, we have the opportunity to look at things either from this aspect of, you know, all hell is breaking loose, to all heaven is breaking loose, right? So anyway, with that, Amy, I'd like to move on to you. And I want to ask you, so the fantasy, right, where that heroic man saves the day, has influenced so much of our culture, the programming and the beliefs on how our partnerships are supposed to be, how they're supposed to function. How has that story affected both men and women? And do we still suffer from the fantasy?
Thank you, Marcy. Awareness, right? Patriarchy, that's all this patriarchal structure of this heroic man coming in to save the day. And and it's gonna be perfect for us, okay? And I don't know about you, but growing up in a household where, you know, the mother didn't work and the father did, it was more of a power struggle, a lot of fighting. It wasn't this partnership. It wasn't a partnership in that way. It was very difficult for women and also difficult for men. And I say that because, you know, if I reflect on a woman's experience, that's easy for me, right? But then I also have to reflect on a man's experience. And what is that for him? I mean, for him to be told that he has to be the provider, the man of the house, take care of all the expenses, have this role that he needs to fit into. And who knows, maybe he gave up his dreams. Maybe he gave up his desires. Maybe he changed who he was to fit into that mold. And so I think in relationships and partnerships, it's important to have empathy for both of us, men and women in this world, because we were just told and given this story, which is just crap. It's not real. There's no basis in it other than to keep, you know, the society going, babies being born, right? This whole structure of economy, this whole structure of everything. It's just a big structure, which is what I do, is get rid of these stories and these fantasies about who we're supposed to be. And so when you think about partnership and you think only your perspective, you're really doing a disservice to the other half of this world. And to find empathy in their experience, because that's how we actually connect as human beings, men and women, women and women, men and men, is to really get down to the human experience of who we are. And that means we must shed and also heal from these expectations that were put on us, these stories that were put on us. And when we do that, when we're able to look at someone, whether you are in friendship, whether you are on a first date, whether you are in a long-term relationship, partnership is to really just look at that person, human to human. Not what you can do for me, not what you have done for me, not what you have done to me, right? And to also just really reconnect with that person in front of you as just being a person who has made mistakes, a person who was given bad information, a person, we've all been educated so horribly in this realm of partnership. We have been given a D, a C minus or a D in this area. And no wonder we struggle in it. And it's like Riana says, it's about, we can't even communicate correctly. We don't even have those basic skills, most of us, right? And this is where we get to, as individuals, we get to grow. We get to discover how masterful we can be at communication, how masterful we can be at letting go of what doesn't serve us, and to reconcile our traumas, reconcile our past, reconcile things that just really do not belong in the present of who we are today. And so I do believe like awareness is key. And if you're not aware that you are living in this whole freaking big construct who's trying to guide you in every direction, then I would ask that you maybe rethink that. Really start to question. Because it's at every level, whether you're walking in a supermarket, watching a TV show, or on Instagram. In your own family, it's there. And with that, so that's my 3 minutes and a half. All right. So Paulina, as we go deeper into these subjects, in your many years of experience as a dating coach, are women coming to you better prepared to meet a partner? And, how has, and are they looking for a different type of relationship, right? So are they actually more prepared?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Amy. And I want to say just a couple of words from what you shared about awareness, right? I think we all have greater awareness. What I see is that for women to come, it's not just that they're better prepared, but they have greater awareness about who they want to attract. So I think there's more clarity. We also know what doesn't work. And I want to refer to that when Riana talked about how the art of falling in love and not really mastering that, and the psychology of being in successful relationships. So what I see that it's really lacking, and the work that we have been kind of what you talked about, the old models don't work. So we've been looking for that chemistry, for example, right? Again, Riana was talking about that, how we just look at some superficial things, even how online dating sites are set up and what we think is important. So yet women who come to me, what I see is that they don't have the skills because they don't have the experience. A lot of women put on hold getting into a relationship. And I believe that you can be better prepared when you practice that relationship muscle. And for us to get good at anything, we got to be willing to be bad in order to get good. And so putting relationship or getting into a relationship on hold, what I teach my students is it's actually you want to develop that muscle, you want to learn, and it starts, of course, with loving yourself. So it's very powerful. What Marcy, you shared how I can love me better. So I think it's a part of a preparation. When you learn to love yourself, you will be better prepared for relationship, because you will not entertain those toxic behavior patterns that Renee was talking about. You can create, and actually I love the work about training your brain, and this is such a big part of what I do too with my clients, is that we want to train our brain to think differently, think on purpose and feel on purpose, so that how we prepare and we can get into a relationship, we can create a relationship, and how we show up is going to be very different. So that is my contribution. And Dr. Jane, we're going to shift gears a little bit. So question for you is, what part does childhood or societal conditioning have to do with a person's ability to have a healthy, great sex life and to create that sexual intimacy? What do you think affects it, has the biggest impact on that?
Thank you, Paulina. Well, Riana already shared with us a little bit about the fact that 100% of us have childhood trauma. I think that, it feels very real to me, what she said, because, and I think that's a really shame removing comment, because we're all in this together. It's not like, well, I'll share, I have childhood trauma. When I'm sharing that, and I think all of you had a beautiful, kind of gorgeous childhood and had nothing wrong happen, it makes me feel a little bit out of place, and like there's something that I'm broken alone. And there's some part of me that there's a little bit of the misery loves company in this for me, because I think it feels true that we aren't perfect humans, we aren't raising perfect humans, and we have had these difficulties. And in the area of sex and intimacy, it is so true that we have been shamed and embarrassed as children and as young adults and as adults related to the topic of sex and intimacy, sexual connection with ourselves, with a partner. There's so much of that. And really, if the work that I do could just be like handed to you in a cute little basket, like in one of those things that, a really good friend makes, and it has like an adorable like fabric in it or something, and I was able to give it to you, what would be in there would be this sense of confidence in yourself to be able to speak what's going on for you. That would be my gift to you, is like to be able to have the voice that you need to be able to share with your partner or prospective partner what you actually like. There's another little piece that would be in the gift. This would be like the second gift that I brought you later. And that would be to know what you want, because being able to speak what we want is great when we have a better sense of what we do want. We'll talk about that later, but that sense of being able to communicate, to talk, to have what is often referred to as the talk related to sex is a huge piece. One of the reasons it's hard to do that is no one talked about it. Like I remember when I was a kid, no one talked about the spleen. Now this maybe seems strange, but the organ, the spleen that's in the body, somehow I decided it was a dirty thing, because sometimes people would break it, and it was serious. And I was like, oh my God, the spleen must be like a sex thing. I was like in 5th grade, and I was waiting to get the talk about the spleen. Like there was no spleen thing, but it was secretive. It felt like you couldn't say it. And it must have been one of those things that you don't talk about. So, I learned spleen was a no. And we learn so much more than spleen. There's so much in our life that we know we're not supposed to talk about. And because of that, when we get into a relationship with another person, it feels like we're just muted, that there's just no way the words can come out. When the words can't come out, we have no way to welcome a partner into our body, into our energy, into our heart. It becomes perfectly impossible for us, and it makes perfect sense that that's true. All right, Riana. I kind of want to call you Riana now because of the Super Bowl show. Like, are you going to be in a red outfit for us? Like, that was amazing the way she did that, and dancing while she's pregnant as well. So what are the childhood traumas specifically, kind of taking off from that when unhealed lead to love trauma and toxic relationships?
Okay, well, I love, Jane, that you mentioned the ability to communicate your feelings is often squished when we're children. And that is so important, to have empowered communication, to have sustainability in your love relationships. So thank you for mentioning that. There are more than 10 traumas, but I developed the childhood trauma checklist in 2012. And this is when 90% of the people I tested could identify some of even 1 to 3 in the top 10 list. But before I tell you this, it's very important. This is not about blame or shame, as the others had talked about, because we are all a product of our environment. And as children, we just don't know. Our child mind goes into some survival and coping mechanisms to deal with things, right? But we're only with the child's mind. So it's not about blaming or shaming our parents either at this stage of life, because it is true, research shows childhood trauma goes through at least 3 generations. And with studies with Holocaust survivors, they also found it goes through the DNA. So if there was a survivor, the lineage is more tending to be anxious, having high anxiety. So it even changes gene expression. So just not that childhood traumas is a new buzzword I've been talking about since 2012, and it doesn't even exist in the psycho manual of the DSM-4, which we're supposed to follow as therapists. So I was kind of bucking the system. But I knew in my work as an addictions counselor and working in mental health units with children 5 through 19 and working in the school systems that kids were being so impacted by trauma. As a matter of fact, it impacts 7 areas of our life: emotionally, physically, cognitively, mental health issues like depression, anxiety, relationship issues, and there's more. So the students, even young people, I can see if they're coming in from a traumatic home, they're so revved up, the cortisol in their body is so high, then memory and learning is down. Okay, so quickly they just want to diagnose ADHD. And instead, I was doing meditation and calming down the trauma response system in the brain and the body. So trauma healing is really important. It also leads to early death, fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome. So it's really important that, people are learning about this today. So the top 10 traumas I identified from the populations I worked with. One, and this is all childhood experiences in and outside of the home, but if you grew up in a home with addictions, so there's 12 addictions, drugs, alcohol is pretty typical, but then there's sex, knowing your parent was a cheater, porn use, gambling, hoarding, spending, eating, gaming, TV watching, workaholism, and even today being on your machines, your computers, your phones, which is like a social media addiction. Number 2 is verbal messaging. Did you hear the words, I love you? Did you get compliments? Where you felt like you were important with your opinions? Or whether you're told, don't speak, your opinion doesn't matter. Go to your room, don't get involved. Change your outfit, you look fat in that. Or never hearing compliments or I love you. Coming from the baby boomer generation, I was on the beach, 9 cohorts of mine, none of us heard the words, I love you, which is pretty interesting. Number 3 is emotional abuse or neglect. Number 4 is being physically abused, hit in any way, rape or molestation, again, in or outside of the home. The next one is around abandonment, and I named 2 types. There's fault and no fault abandonment. So a no fault abandonment example is if a parent happened to die early or had to leave the family to serve in the military, or even like my father had to travel for work and we didn't know where he was, but he was CIA, FBI. So I'm like, where's dad? My mom said, well, I don't know where he is. Leaving a child very anxious, is my dad okay? Fault abandonment would be something like never seeing your child or being involved while the couple is together. Once they split up, they don't see the child very much, or even an emotional abandonment where the parent is in the house, but they rarely engage with the child or don't go to their sport activities, those types of things. Number 6, if you're a part of the foster care system, if you were adopted or had to go live in another person's home because your family couldn't keep you there. Trauma 7, most people can identify with. You felt different in some way. You might have been a chubby child or skinny and gawky and called the nerd. That was one of mine. You might have been the only African-American in an all-Caucasian school. You might have been coming out as an LGBTQ teen and not accepted by peers or family. So anyway, you might have felt different or you didn't fit in. Trauma 8 is around siblings. Your sibling could have bullied you. They could have been seen as the golden child, the favored one. So were they more handsome or beautiful, or the star athlete or the better student? You were always compared to them. And another one around sibling is if they were born with an illness or medical issue and your parents had to give them more attention because of it. Trauma 9 actually has 2 parts now. There was, like I said, there's more traumas than 10. So I had to bring out number 11 back down into the top 10 list. Because when I developed this list, this was not very prevalent. And it's one of our most biggest one now, which is community trauma. COVID outbreaks, our mass shootings, our school shootings, our Mother Nature events, flood, fires, hurricanes, impacts the whole community at large, which in turn impacts the families. So family trauma could be growing up in a dangerous neighborhood and you felt afraid, moving every 2 to 4 years like our military families have to do, growing up with a lot of lack messages, we don't have enough for food and so forth. And the last one is mental health issues in mom or dad, most difficult bipolar and borderline personality disorders. So those are the top 10. I think my time is up. Okay, so moving on. Marcy, are the trends in partnerships and romantic relationships in or out of alignment with universal law?
Great question, but I also want to thank you for your list. And I think that you gave all of us food for thought there. So thank you for that, Riana. So the partnership question is very important because universal law, as we know it, is exactly almost like the natural parameters that we have in terms of our own evolution. And the universal law of partnership says this: number one, that all partnerships are equal. The giving and the receiving is equal. Number two, that even though we have the male, which typically is the giver, and the female as the receiver, what I believe has been a real issue through the programming that we've been receiving is that the actual mechanism of the women receiving has been abrupted. So women were shamed into not receiving, right? Guilted into not receiving. And also the process of receiving for the women. I mean, on a universal level, we are the great receivers, but we're the great receivers with purpose. It is so that what we receive is transformed through the heart and sent back out into the world as love. And so we must be able to receive what we are being given. However, if those two aspects of partnership have been distorted, then neither one is actually showing up the way that they need to. And Amy, I love that you brought up earlier that this whole patriarchal model is an important one for both females and males to start letting go of, because it has been detrimental to both of us. But again, we have our nature, our true nature as a male is to be the giver. In other words, they are out into the universe collecting and giving to the female, knowing that the female is in her purpose because she is the one giving birth to creation, right? So whether it's child birth or it is the creative aspect, it is that transformational energy that's used in all of creation. So we have to start to really examine the different parts of partnership and reclaim them for ourselves. Now, what we see in society is, again, because of the trauma that, Riana spoke of, Dr. James spoke of, because of the distortion in partnerships, Paulina spoke of, Amy spoke of, what we're seeing is that the distortion in partnership itself is really what is creating the chaos. And yet we know in chaos comes clarity, right? And so I do believe that we're in this place, and I said it earlier on in the program, where we're actually in a healing phase, but it's going to require that we let go of anything that has prevented us, particularly as women, because that's where we're focusing in the show, and how it has impacted our ability to receive. I have had clients from all over the world who come with the same issues, and that is they're so programmed to be looking outside of them, to acquiesce, to contort, to being in relationship to please the male, that they have closed themselves off to being able to receive, because they are actually not even capable in many situations of recognizing what it is that they must receive, and that it is their, let's say, obligation to receive. Because if we want these partnerships to universally create a world that we all want to live in, we have to start to reclaim the true nature, and partnership has to be born from that. So it's, again, such an interesting aspect that we have going on here. So with that, Amy, I'd like to ask you a question. How do we get to shift into this new reality that we're talking about? That a partnership does not define us, and what could we be getting wrong?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yes, I think we're kind of hitting it a little bit. So, which is around perfection, around really not understanding the power of the feminine, and how what that can actually look like, right? So how do we shift? I'm trying to find my question right here. Okay, in this new reality that partnership does not define us. Yes. So most of us here on this call, I can see that we're from a certain generation that was very embedded in our life, in our reality, in our culture, and what we saw growing up, that partnership was one of the main goals. I mean, it was like you were always trying to find the partnership, trying to be in partnership, trying to find the relationship, right? Many of us, many people, women, chose to marry very young and get into partnership as soon as possible. And now it's shifting, right? Not everyone's so interested in partnership. They're more interested in their friends. They're more interested in going out, traveling, creating these careers, going to college, and partnership has less of an influence on in our narrative from when we grew up. But what's the shift there for us who were told that partnership was such an important part of our being? Where is the shift, right? That's a huge shift for us to really, that we get to let go of, that we must redefine, that we must reframe our very essence of who we are because of what we've been ingrained to believe about self. And these beliefs, they're very powerful. They are super powerful. And for us to think that they're not is doing a disservice for our own growth. So again, this awareness and what I call radical acceptance, this radical acceptance that people were telling me who I was supposed to be and where my importance lied in terms of relationship and partnership. And I have to redefine that. That's my job. That's my job, because we as women lose out on ourselves. We're the one who lose. We lose. We lose who we are. We lose our opportunities. We lose everything. So it's important that we shift into us. what's important for us. Just like Dr. Jane said, what do you want? That is your first question. Everyone should ask themselves, what do you want? Not delegated, not even relying on anyone else. Everyone else is not important, actually. That's the shift. Other people really are not that important. When you're coming from a place that you are not authentic in who you are and knowing of who you are, that is very detrimental for us. That's where the pain lives. That's where the disruption lives. That's where bad relationships live. So it's our duty, our responsibility to really focus on what we desire, who we want to be, how are we going to let go of all of these stories, of all these things that are defining us, and we're actually enrolled in, but might not even know that we have that enrollment in us, right? So this is where self-discovery, this is where, you know, all of us on this panel are coaches, and we support women in their lives. This is where you get to rediscover who you are. And how we might be getting it wrong is thinking that we must do it by ourselves, that we are, you know, that everyone else is, we can't trust anyone. We cannot trust relationships. We cannot trust other people. That's where we're getting it wrong, I think, is our self-trust. And knowing ourselves and really trusting ourselves is where the power lies. So shifting into this new reality that we are okay with who we are is, yes, asking, what do we want? Creating a vision around it and deciding, how are we going to get there? How are we actually going to get there? And with that, I'm going to go to Paulina. Are we going to do our book? Are we doing our book thing?
Yeah. You know what? We have a little surprise for everybody.
Yeah, I'm like, are we doing a book thing?
Yeah, I got the most wonderful Valentine's present, and that was a novel written by a former client of mine. Her name is Soni Singh. And I was reading the book and realized that the spiritual mentor in the book was me. And so we're going to give away 3 books today by Soni, and I'm going to have them signed. So how we're going to do this is we'd like everyone to put your email in the chat, and we're going to go in number succession, right, Aim? Okay, so yep, everybody just start putting a number in before your name and your email, and we're going to select a winner for one of those books. 2 books. Okay, we're going to select 2 people. The name of the book is Lonely Dove, and it is it's a wonderful, wonderful story about a young woman who describes her relationship evolution until she comes to this place of self-realization. And it's a wonderful, wonderful story.
Should I pick a number?
Yep, go right ahead.
I'm just going to go number 5.
Number 5.
Do
we have a 5?
Crystal, do we have a 5? Or closest to a 5? Ooh, we don't have a 5.
Okay, well, all right.
But the one closest to a 5 is a 3. Is that correct?
Okay. Yep, the one closest to a 5.
Or a 7. All right, let me pick again.
You're gonna pick again. Yep, everybody put a number before your email, okay? Just do that. And this time, Crystal will ask you, close your eyes and you pick a number, Crystal.
Yeah, you, Crystal, you do it this time.
Okay,
Okay, just pick a number.
15.
Do we have a 15? Nope. Well, we have a 12.
We have a 12. 12 is it.
Okay, Catherine,
Catherine.
Kathy, you're gonna get one of the books. So we're gonna ask that you also send us your address so that we can have that shipped to you. And then let's go one more. So again, just put your, choose a number between, let's say, between 1 and 40, and put your email. And this time, Dr. Jane, will you pick somebody?
Pick a number.
Just a number, just pick a
I
number.
choose 13.
13. Do we have a 13?
No.
Nope. Okay, next. Do it again, everybody. A number between 1 and 40 and your email. And Riana, will you pick this one?
10.
10.
10.
There's an 11 there.
Are you seeing 11? Okay, let's,
11 works. Where
11 works.
Oh, where's it 11?
I don't see an 11.
We have a 12. That's the same, Catherine. So
Towards the bottom. I just saw it.
I'm not seeing it. Okay. All right. One more time, everybody. And Paulina, you'll pick this one. You'll just pick a number. Just give them a second to put a number and their email in the chat. And then Paulina, you will just choose a random number between 1 and 40 in your mind.
I think
Good.
Karen had 11, by the way. Karen.
Oh, you did?
11 gal. Yeah, I saw it as soon as I said 10, 11
Oh, I'm
popped
so
up.
sorry. Yeah, I didn't see it.
There is also a 9, so it's tough.
Ah,
well,
there, Karen G.
Okay.
That's 11.
Karen G, it is. You were the first one closest there that Riana saw. So it's funny, I'm still not seeing it, but yeah. Somebody make note of that and we'll ask for your address, so we'll have it shipped.
great.
Okay, so where were we with that? Now, whose turn is it?
I think I need it. It's Paulina's turn. Is that correct?
I think so too. Okay.
All right. And we're on number 3. Oh my goodness. All right. In your experience with working with people all over the world, is it possible to help someone who has turned themselves off? Is there a new trend, a new criteria, or a new level of willingness to develop successful relationships? What do you see as a case for that trend? By the way, what is a dual partner that you speak of? How does that affect choosing a successful partnership?
Thank you for that question. I want to share that what I'm going to talk about, which is a new style of personality typing system that I use, that it's very much aligned with what Dr. Jane talked about, because Dr. Jane was talking about, you got to know what you want and you got to speak up about that. Riana talked about empowered communication. And Marcy, you talked about how distortion and not being aligned with who we are creates that chaos. And Amy, you talked about being authentic, self-discovery, and self-realization. And again, you asked several times, what do I want, as a key question. So all of that coming together, the reason why I use personality typing, and we also shared some statistics. So when I did my research, turns out that we know about the divorce rate, and turns out that the biggest reason for divorce is basic incompatibility. And the reason why I use personality typing, because it is all about compatibility. And each of us is born with certain strengths. So we all have all of the energies, like all of the qualities, but not in equal proportion. And each of us has the dominant qualities in us, the natural strength. So think for somebody, it's being around people and talking with them all day long. For another person, it's creative expression and being alone and having that quiet time. Those are completely different things, but they are a source of inspiration and actually give us energy, right? And so understanding who you are and really discovering what is that, what is my personality type? What is my what are my biggest strengths? What is so natural for me? And the whole point of using that is because the easiest, most compatible relationships where you can be 100% yourselves, and you give naturally, automatically to each other the very things that each of our partners has as their weaknesses and the strengths. So when we come together, so somebody, let's say, lives in a world of emotions and very very warm, and it's all about connection and communication. An ideal partner for them will be not somebody who is exactly the same. So there will be all this drama and the dishes will be flying, but it will be somebody who will be different yet complementary. Somebody who will be more logical and more rational and able to offer them a different perspective, hold the space for them, great listener, calm them down. So that way you'll feel like, okay, that is the kind of, or somebody who is very like, make things happen, like work, impact, like my type. My husband is very creative, easygoing. He brings the fun and adventure into our relationship. So that's kind of complementarity. And this is what I see is that where the next level is, because we really can choose intentionally the partner with whom, again, the whole point is that be totally yourself and avoid any working on the relationship, any relationship issues that pretty much most of them emerge when we want a person to be somebody they're not, or we want our partner to give us what they can't or what it's hard for them to give to us. So in fact, I want to move on and ask Dr. Jane very juicy question. So you've also been working with women from people from all around the world, and those people who have turned themselves sexually. Is it possible for them to reconnect with that sexuality within them and heal that and create an intimate, loving, and passionate relationship?
That is that piece about when we, and the question you asked, Paulina, is when we've turned ourselves off sexually. We also could talk, if we were sitting around having coffee or something, about how your experiences have brought you to this place of turning yourself off sexually, or you feel that someone else has turned you off sexually. Like, how do you then, when you're that person, and I talk to that person all the time in my work, how do you reconnect with yourself? How do you become open to receiving? As Marcy mentioned, our job in the feminine is to receive. We receive physically, our anatomy is, receiving. If we're receiving a male partner in penis and vagina sex, that's a receiving activity. But so often it feels like we're not receiving what we want. Yesterday, I spent 3 hours on the Reddit subthread Dead Bedroom. So it's this big kind of a place where people go to discuss concerns that they have sexually about their sex life. And there were 29,000 people who saw the thread, 396,000 people in that particular group. And that to me is just remarkable in and of itself. But oftentimes people will say something to me about, if it's a heterosexual couple, a guy will say, my wife, she's not turned on, or they'll show up in my office and they'll be like, my wife, she's not turned on. I want her to be turned on. Unfortunately, in a lot of these cases, this couple has been involved with duty sex, so that the woman has provided sexual intercourse on a regular basis, perhaps 3 days a week, because she feels obligatory to that. And eventually she's been like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. We talked earlier about how I think it's positive for us to claim our empowered sexual pleasure. And that in some cases means saying no to what I've been doing. So what do I do if I'm that person? First of all, I'm going to cry when he says that in front of me, when he says, I want her to get in touch with her sexuality after he's used my body in that way that doesn't give me any sense of receiving any pleasure that I would actually desire. But what I have to do as my job, and I've probably numbed myself out because the body keeps score, but I have to learn my body again, and I have to take time with me. I have to take time with my beautiful body. I need to understand what feels good. We've talked about this several times. I need to touch myself in privacy without somebody else somehow pushing me that I should become orgasmic if I'm not, or that I should change the way I am or the way I feel about my body. I need to start releasing the shame that I've been given by society and possibly by this partner or other partners. This might not even be somebody who's been married for decades. It might be someone who's newly married. It might be someone who's just had some difficult situations in her college experience where she's been coerced into sexual activities, not what she would call rape, but things where she was pushed beyond her boundaries, or in our lives together with a partner. So the answer to that question is to honor ourselves, to honor yourself, to honor myself, and to begin to nourish and become connected literally with ourselves as sexual beings. My question for beautiful Riana is, why do dynamics show up in relationship when trauma is not healed in the adult? So this would be really linked to that, my comments, and I would love to hear your thoughts on that, Riana.
Yeah, it's linked to everybody's comments. I'm like, how fast can I write to comment back? I love, Dr. Jane, that you said women felt so much they're having duty sex. And when there's trauma that's not healed, there are a lot of men that use sex to build their ego, right? Either through cheating or demanding sex or having a temper tantrum if they don't get it. And this comes from trauma number 7, usually personal, not feeling good enough, not feeling manly enough as a young man, or maybe a woman cheated on him, the girl he admired in his teen years. But that demand for sex, that need for sex, that sex addict is coming from childhood wounds for certain. Other things that show up, I mean, I have at least 24 combinations to talk about, but here's a few others. With Paulina saying expectations, realistic expectations of your partner. Well, if you're with me, you got to do this, 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 and this. No, we have to come into the relationship feeling 100% we are the whole package, and our life is together, and we're feeling wonderful about who we are, our life, our work, our finances, everything, so that we become the choosers. We're choosing to date you, not waiting around saying, will you choose me? You know, which used to be a woman, praying to get asked to be married. No, it's different. Like, we are now the choosers. I see in my women a lot of people pleasing. That comes from growing up, again, let's say a difficult father. So if she people pleased and was the good little girl, then, she might not be yelled at that night if she's pleasing daddy. So this is her norm into getting love. So if she marries a difficult husband, she'll do everything to keep the peace. And then I hear later, I just lost myself. I don't know who I am. I give everything to my husband and my kids. They do nothing for me. And that is a sign of the people pleaser. Other things that show up as false negative assumptions. Okay, we're on a vacation. I assume because I'm away, he's going to be cheating on me. This is fears and anxiety of not feeling good enough. If you had abandonment in your life from mom or dad, things that could show up as codependency, love addiction, and something called RRS, relationship repetition syndrome. This is where unconsciously, this person is not good for me. You break up, but then 10 days later, they, say, I'll change, I'm sorry. And consciously, this is your 3rd time, it's not going to change. But the inner wounds that is starving for love will continue to go back. The research shows people go back a total of 7 times to this kind of relationship. This is a real sign that your childhood trauma has not been healed, or you'll have ongoing anxiety and bouts of depression, especially when your partner is gone. Jealousy and control of a man comes from trauma number 7 and number 2, the verbal messaging, and again, personal trauma. Blame and the inability to apologize, the need to be right. Did you ever date a guy that was like that? You know, they'll always blame you in 100 different ways and never say I'm sorry or apologize. By the way, that's a sign of a sociopath. But this is because they didn't feel acknowledged or loved as a kid. So they are always trying to prove that they're right. And it's very difficult for them to apologize. Many addictions come from early childhood trauma where kids are escaping to use drugs and alcohol from their family dynamic. But lying and sociopathy, the fear of doing something wrong, is what happened when they were a child. So they said, well, if I lie and become a good liar, I got a 50-50 chance of getting away with this. So they become expert liars and charmers to get what they want. This often happens if you grow up, you know, with lack and you want more in life. So this is where you see the sequel, Dirty John, right? Where the guy that grew up with all this childhood trauma, who was poor, went after this wealthy, kind, loving woman, right? So we have to be very astute when we're out there dating. This is what we call dating consciously. There are 24 questions that my clients ask. They do know what is right or wrong, you know, what is emotionally healthy and what is not, what is toxic. So to educate yourself is the best thing that you can do, and you're all on this call. So there you go. You got your experts helping you out.
There we go.
So with the high traumas of 9 or 10, this is where sociopathy and narcissism comes from. And then I do the severity scale. So that's why knowing the traumas are very important. So Marcy, what does being individualized have to do with the ability to be in a relationship?
So we're all coming at this from, you know, different perspectives, and it's really, it's so rich with the information that's coming forward. So thank you so much to everyone here on the panel. But the individuation is actually something that's quite essential. And this is also something that we're seeing come to the forefront of women everywhere. And I believe that it's truly part of this self-love journey. And it's where we are embracing our worth, our value. And there's an aspect of it also that we're actually in the process of self-actualization by claiming all of those parts of ourselves, and that our worth is not dependent on being in service to our husbands or our partners, and that our worth is that we have come here innately already worthy, and that we are here with a purpose. And this purpose, unfortunately, is completely invisible to us if we are caught up in the patterning of looking to, as I spoke of earlier, to contort ourselves in a relationship in order to be loved or to be deemed acceptable or deemed worthy. And I loved what you said, Riana, about you know, this perspective of, you know, of so often women particularly going out there and being so desperate for someone to love them, when in fact the whole purpose of our being here is, rather than looking for someone to love us, it is because we are the energy of love itself. We must find a safe place for our love to land. Which means, what is that safe place? It's a place where we are cherished, where we and the love that we have brought forward is respected, and we are seen as the divine goddess, the divine feminine that we are, and that our purpose is to heal this world. That's what our love does. And it comes because, again, we are the ones receiving everything that is being brought in to the female energy. And we are giving birth to something brand new. Now, particularly in the world as we are living in it now, we are seeing how desperate the world is for this new world to emerge from within us. We are seeing the corruption, coming to the surface all around the globe. We are seeing, institutions just crumbling at our feet that we had put so much trust into. And so the trust now must come back home. The trust is we can only trust ourselves once we recognize who we are, our worth, and love ourselves, because we recognize also that we are divine beings, and therefore love is all there is. So that's what we're here to do. So with that, Amy, I would like to ask you, how does freedom for both men and women get to be expressed in today's partnerships?
Thank you for that, Marcy. Yes, I want to comment on a couple of things on Paulina's comment about, being 100% yourself in a relationship. I think is a valuable vision to start putting into your mind. And I always say in relationships, this is a question I ask people, whether I'm on a date with the person or did your ex-wife or your partner love you? Did they like you? I know they loved you, but did they actually like you? Right? But this is a big thing for me. I know you love me, but do you like me? That means in our everyday existence, do you like me? Are we easy to be around? Do you find me, are you putting me down? Are you commenting on every little thing that I do? If you are, you don't really like me, because I'm 100% me. And this is what it looks like. It's messy. It's loud sometimes. I'm very clumsy, whatever. It's like you have to like me. We as women have to be liked by our partners. We have to just have that ease around existing in our own home. Okay, not walking on eggshells, not all that crap. So this idea of 100% being yourself and creating that vision for yourself is super important, and defining what is it going to feel like to be 100% me right now in this moment? What will that look like? And as Riana's going through all her traumas, I'm like, oh, it's so exciting. It's exciting because it's known. If it's known, it means it can be worked out. If it's worked out, that means there's possibilities for you. I mean, there's a way out. There's a vision. There's a way. And this is where we get to really, instead of going into this place of I have this, into oh my God, this is what I have. How can I actually get out of it? This is how we get back to ourselves. This is how we become innovative, resilient, creative, fun, easy. Doesn't have to all be hard. So I love that, because as she's speaking about all those traumas, God, we're so complex. And you think about that person sitting next to you, that man or that woman or that partner, they are just as complex as us. And where's the beauty, the empathy, the connection in that, the understanding, the willingness for us women to be, tell me more about that. What was that experience like for you? Opening up, love, connection. So what was my question? Sorry, I get lost sometimes. So because I think it's so important for us to really, be 100% ourselves. Create that vision. And that's freedom, right? So how does freedom for both men and women get to express? Yeah, today's a part. Yeah, so I've been a dater for a long time. And so the freedom of me being in that dater is and what I see out there is that we have more freedom in our sexuality, more freedom on what we want our relationships to look like, more freedom to really, by even programs like this, right? This is creating the freedom to think of something new. I mean, 30 years ago, this wasn't at your fingertips. 15 years ago, even. It's not as accessible as it is today. And so freedom looks like choice. Freedom looks like letting go of what doesn't work. Freedom looks like changing your mind. Freedom looks like, let's renegotiate that contract that I made with this person because it's no longer working for me. So when you create this value of freedom, what is freedom for you in your expression, in your thought, in your own autonomy? You have the freedom to choose differently. You have the freedom to say no. And so what I do in my work is I embody these values, and freedom is a value that we embody. And when you embody that freedom, that idea, wait a minute, I'm not actually attached, if I don't want to be, to these ideas that people tell me who I am. I have the freedom to let that go. I'm actually a free, autonomous person right now. And so we get to really, both men and women get to create this idea of freedom and having the freedom to be who you want to be. The freedom to discover who that person is today. There's nothing in the past. You can't change it. It's already complete. But what can you do today? You have that freedom of choice. Yes.
So Amy, I'm just noticing the time.
Me too.
And I'm, rather than going into our next round, I'm thinking we might take the questions that we have from the audience for each of our panelists. And then if there are any questions that come into the chat, we can take a look at those. And then we'll hear from each one of our experts, a last share that they would like to give us. Is that good for everybody? Okay, here we go. So this is from our audience. This was a pre-submitted question, which we do every single program. And we give priority to our members. Amy and I have an empowerment, a heart-centered empowerment membership group, which I encourage everyone to take a look at. It's very hands-on. One of the primary benefits of that program is that you actually get a live workshop with Amy and I both, where we are 100% accessible to you every Monday following the show. And we really do a deep dive into all the different aspects of the show. And it's very, very powerful. But having said that, I'd like to offer up our first question from the pre-submitted questions. Why is everybody concerned about who they date and if they are or not in a committed or serious relationship? Paulina, let's go to you first. How would you answer that?
I would be curious how a person speaks for everyone. I won't speak for everyone. I think it depends. We get to choose. So speaking on what Amy just shared, this is the freedom and this is the evolution and this is the time where we're in, where we get to create anything. We can have any relationship we want there's so many options now, there's so much freedom. We get to decide when the relationship ends, if it's not working anymore. And I think this is the biggest shift right now, just the best time to be in. We are so empowered. And we normalize so many things that in the past would hold us back, like all these traumas. Now, well, guess what? Dr. Riana just told us 100%, we're all traumatized. So it's normalizes everything. We get to choose. And I think what's important is to ask yourself, and Amy again brought that question, is like, what do I want? So really focus, what do I want? Do I want to be a free bird flying and just not even dating, or do I want to date people and have fun doing that, or I want to date because I want to find the right person for me so we can spend the rest of our life with? Or do I want? So I actually tell my husband, we're in a great relationship, but sometimes I'm really like, yeah, let's revisit in 5 years. It's amazing with what we've created. Let's see where we are 5 years from now. And that is that power. And that is what's available for each and every one of us. Create your relationship aligned with who you are and your vision for what you want.
Great. Thank you for that. Dr. Jane, how would you answer that question? Why is everybody concerned about who they date and whether or not they're in a committed or serious relationship?
Well, I think there's always this thread of sexual shame toward women that has to do with the whole, the Madonna whore thing. Like, are you a sexually engaging person and you don't have one partner? Then sometimes we shame you about that. So there's this idea that if you're with just one person, then that's more acceptable to me as society. Like, I won't judge you for that, even if, like, you're pretty much almost married, you're very close, you're almost living together, then I'm not going to judge you for being sexual with that person. There's still always this view of women as a person who's supposed to be married, and then it's okay to be sexual. Like, you can be, if you're in a married and committed relationship, then you can be a sexual person. If you're not committed to somebody, then somehow you are loose, or you are there's some kind of judgment that goes toward a woman. And I think that's something that we're letting go of in our society, but it still persists from former times.
Great. Thank you for that. Riana, you want to jump in and give your opinion there?
Yeah, I definitely think it's family norms, society norms that makes us feel as we grow up. Oh, you're a little girl, you're going to grow up and get married. What wedding dress do you want? I mean, it was like, thrown to us constantly. So when someone says, well, why aren't you married? Just own it. Like, I'm running a business. I don't have time for a marital relationship right now. I don't know if it'll be for me. I love what I do. Just speak it proudly with confidence, empowerment. Just speak up why you're choosing not to be with someone. We have a right to either marry or not marry, so speak that proudly and don't let societal norms get you down.
Great. Amy, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I think we should go on to the next question. I think that was pretty much
perfect. All right. Paulina, I think that relationships in midlife are very different than the ones we had at 25 or 30, and that we have to approach them differently. What new approach can we have?
Yeah, they are different because as we grow older and we have more life experiences, we also have more opportunities to discover and align with who we really are authentically, and also have those experiences that help us go from that sort of state of being unaware. I don't even know who I want or who I am. And I remember I was married in my 20s. I didn't even know who I was then. And so as you grow older, of course, your level of awareness increases. And with that comes clarity, even just the vision of who you want to be with and what kind of relationship. So again, it's all about so I'm very and I focus so much on this. It's all about your design, you get, because we all have different personalities and we have different values. For somebody, Amy's core value, freedom, driven by interest, new ideas, self-expression, the highest value. So Amy cannot be with a different personality type for whom his mission is to keep the system. So being in a relationship where every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. we have mashed potatoes of chicken, she's going to run out. Yeah. But for somebody else, having that guarantee that we're sitting at the table, we have at 6 o'clock, it gives them that peace of mind and that security and that safety, and that is love. So all depends, but as you grow, first, yes, discover yourself and then design your whole life, align it with who you are and the vision for what you want.
Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you. And Dr. Jane, would you like to jump in on that?
Absolutely. I think that one of the things that comes up in midlife are hormonal changes. We also have, some changes in our bodies other than hormonal changes. And sometimes it's challenging for us to stay in touch with our libido during those times. I have good news though, and that is that this is so much a mind game and not as much a body game as we've been told by the media. So much of us can continue to be interested, alive, sexually turned on before, during, and after menopause, and it doesn't require that we take hormonal replacement therapy to do that. So it's just a part of just claiming who we are sexually throughout our lifespan and not leaving that part behind as we get older.
Fabulous. Thank you for that. And Riana?
Yeah, I think when you're older, you're a little bit more susceptible to what the family wants, the societal norms. Oh, I want to get married before I'm too old and have my kids. And if that's what you want, then beautiful, go for it. As you get older, I want to tell you, sexuality is very much alive. I'm 65 and, still sizzling, So don't ever think there is an age cutoff to not feeling alive, vibrant, happy, and very sexually in tune. There really is not. As Jane said, it's about mindset, about self-love, about empowerment and feeling great about who you are and how you enjoy your life. So there really shouldn't be, but with age comes experience and wisdom. I married young as well, had my daughters, and then learned really different, to choose differently after that one, so with experience comes, more wisdom.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, let's
jump
move.
on that one.
You want to jump in? Okay.
This one I love because this came up in my group the other week, and many of us have who entered into a traditional lifestyle, and it wasn't me, but other people, like this 25-year marriage or whatever, right? So, and then divorced, right? And so when you're making that decision to marry and have kids and be in that construct and like really 25 years of this, when you come out of that, the new reality is that you don't have to have any of those conditions. You don't have to worry about kids. You don't have to worry about the house, getting a house. You don't have to worry about finances. You don't have to worry about this stuff. You actually get to discover like the beauty of someone in front of you, like who they are. And without all these hookups to get what you want, right? So it is much more of a freeing experience to go out there and date. But we have to be able to release that old thought, that old past of what dating looked like, of what we were after, what marriage looked like, what this relationship looked like under these conditions of house, family, money, security, whatever it is. Now you don't have any of that. That means you actually get to go out and enjoy yourself with another human being. You get to reframe what dating looks like and what love looks like and what relationships look like. And it's much more freeing and available to you than you might think.
And if I could jump in, I would just add, the importance actually of not trying to recreate the relationship that you created when you were 20 years old, but to give yourself that permission to create a relationship now based on where your heart is leading you. So that's true power and true freedom, as Amy was talking about before. Mm-hmm. All right, next question. How can one reconcile their need for independence with the need for companionship, especially when trying to move on from the past? This is a question I'd like to ask you, Paulina.
So reconciling independence with partnership?
With the need for companionship, especially if you're trying to move on.
Yeah, so right there, just the language, don't try, just move on, just decide that you moved on. And so I'm my whole thing is that you get to create what you want by your design. So our brain will limit us into thinking that it's got to be A or B. And what I want to offer you is that there are other possibilities, right? You can have independence as a woman, and you can have companionship, and they both can, you can create that, right? So I'm independent in my business, but I have my companionship in my relationship. I also talked about the time frame. I might be independent 5 years from now, but now I'm in a companionship. So it's very fluid. It's pretty much up to you. So how do you, what is your vision? I would ask, if I were coaching that person, I would say, well, what is your vision? What do you want it to look like? Independence and companionship. Let's put the pieces of a puzzle together in the way that serves you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Dr. Jane, how would you answer that question?
Well, I think that people are looking at all sorts of different ways to have relationships that include companionship and independence, one of which is having separate bedrooms. If you're living together with someone, some people are choosing to have their own room. Some people are choosing to live apart together. So there's a whole group of people who are living apart together. There are other people who are choosing some version of ethical non-monogamy, where they're having a primary relationship with someone that's sexual, and then they're choosing to have other relationships with another or multiple other people. And so just as Paulina said, this is about negotiating and bringing into the conversation who you truly are and sharing that openly with your partner, and then creating something that works for both of you. But there are so many choices that we can make now in the sexual realm and intimacy realm that can allow you to have what you want, finding the right person for you and allowing you to co-create that granularly.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Riana.
Well, I love both their answers. I agree with both of them. I would just say, it's about conscious, empowered communication. If you're enjoying someone's company and you're getting closer, but still value your independence, tell them, like, I'm really enjoying you. I love your company. Let's just keep dating, but I also love my personal time, and see if they align with that. It is about good, open, honest communication and knowing your desires. So exactly what the other lady said. Yeah.
And it actually leads us into the next question, which someone asked, what is the best way to communicate with a potential partner? So very quickly, Paulina, anything to add there?
Understanding what his values are and where they're coming from in whatever that issue is, right? And see if it's a match, and being okay if it's not a match.
Bingo. Dr. Jane.
Well, receiving the other person's energy and words with compassion, I think, is the number one thing. And then hoping that that person is also receiving you in that way. And, doing your very best to set up situations where you can communicate together without interruption, so that these aren't just fly-by-night types of conversations where you're actually able to connect, you're actually spending time without a lot of distractions. I've had client couples tell me that they have a cat issue where they can't talk because of the cats, or one has a cat thing. There are so many things that bug us about the other person that just have to do with logistics. And I think it's very important to think about that. There's a new book right now called This Is How Your Marriage Ends by Matthew Frey that talks all about, and it's directed specifically to men, but it talks all about the little things in life that cause us difficulty. And I think in the communication realm, making sure that we set it up, these conversations, so that they're potentially successful, so that we do know who that other person is, and so that they really do hear us, instead of kind of trying to wonder if we were heard. And then when we do that, we will understand, yes, we do we get each other. This is a real communication with this person. I'm not just making assumptions, and I can go forward from there.
Great. And Riana, would there be anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah, not jumping to assumptions. In communication, picture the affinity wheel. He talks, she talks, he talks, she talks. So balanced communication, open heart, open mind. You're not there to change anyone. You don't want anyone changing you. Just being really friends first. Don't rush the love process. Really get to know them and enjoy them as people. Share your light, share your love, and you'll be amazed at how many people will want to date and be with you. Like, the world is really abundant. So share your heart, share your mind, share your love, and communication comes easy.
Beautiful,
I have
beautiful.
one thing to add if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
Just because I'm in a new relationship, so this is all coming up, that when you're communicating with someone, yes, everything Paulina, Dr. Jane, Riana said, but then to also recognize what fears are coming up in you when they are speaking, because that's our responsibility to take care of those fears or those insecurities or those thoughts, like anxiety. Like, you know, sometimes he says something, I'm like, oh, I gotta look at that. Why am I in fear about that? So it's really about taking our own responsibility in communicating when we're receiving information, to check in with mind and body to see, is something coming up for me around this? And if so, what is it? And, you know, when you express that to your partner, like, you know, I'm really feeling kind of fearful about this. This is interesting. You know, then it opens up more communication instead of the fear comes and the anger comes usually, right? That's the old pattern. So I think it's really important for us to also be present with self and body when we are in communication, and what's hitting us wrong, what we're feeling uncomfortable about, or what we're feeling really good about. So that would I would put that in there.
That's great. Yeah. And I would just add, you know, to make certain that you're speaking from your heart, not from your head, because the head will, the ego, which controls that aspect of the mind, will always put you in that fearful state that Amy was speaking of. So this next question, I just want to, I want to say first off to our audience who sent this question in, this is a very large topic, and we of course cannot cover this in the detail that you might be looking for. So we are just going to present the question and get brief responses from our panelists. And please, if you would like to pursue this, please reach out to one of them, all of them. You know, reach out to someone and get the help that you are looking for, because this is a matter of your heart, and your heart is the most important aspect of you and the life that you create. So here's the question. We'll begin with you, Paulina. How can you fix a 30-year relationship when you both made mistakes and one won't get over it and keeps bringing up and doesn't trust you around anyone or your phone or to drive?
Okay, so two things. So fixing a relationship, it requires two people agree that they want to fix it. If it's one person, there isn't anything to fix. Mistakes can be opportunities for us to learn the lessons we need to learn, and they can actually lead from a breakdown in the relationship to a breakthrough. But again, it requires two people to see it this way. And I think, again, when one person is unwilling to move forward and grow in the relationship, there is no relationship, because it requires two people who want to move in the direction that they decide, let's leave everything behind, we're going to move forward. And if it's not happening, then you get to decide if you want to move forward and be okay with leaving that person behind.
Thank you for that. Dr. Jane.
I work with couples who have this type of concern quite often. And there are two things that I would suggest. The first thing is to create, to do some thinking. If you're the person who has made the mistake in the past, or where this has come up for your relationship and your partner is mistrusting of you, I recommend that you do some thinking and write down what you learned from this experience, you yourself, what you learned about yourself, kind of some ideas about how you got into this situation, why it happened. And I recommend that if you have this type of relationship where you communicate well together, that you share that with your partner. So your partner has this sense of reassurance that they know that you learned something from this experience. And I don't mean to shame yourself or to say, to self-flagellate or somehow, treat yourself poorly without compassion. I mean, really think about what happened and what it was in your life or what's going on now differently so that your partner doesn't feel like this is going to recur. Sometimes this is very helpful because then your partner might feel like, okay, my partner learned from these situations in the past, and we can put this behind us in a different way. And the second thing that I suggest is asking your partner how they're doing, because one of the things that happens in these situations is, let's say I'm the person who made a mistake in the past. I would just like to forget it because honestly, I want to move on and I'm hoping that things will resolve. And so I honestly don't want to think about it, and I really don't want to talk about it all the time. And you really want to talk about it all the time, and I'd like not to. But what helps my partner, if I'm that person, is if I say things to them like, how are you doing? I'm going to be going on a business trip to Memphis. Like, I want to know how you're feeling about that. Like, what can I do to help you feel more comfortable in this situation? And even, like, allow that your partner to recognize that you see how that you care about how they're doing. Now, in some situations, this becomes completely impossible, seemingly impossible for you. And I'd be more than happy to talk with you about this because it can be really challenging when you're ready to let go of what's happened and you really want to move forward. You can't, as a couple, continue to rehash this thing. And that happens sometimes, and it's completely exhausting to you, to your energy, to your partnership, and then your trust as well ends up being eroded here. So this is a problem that lots and lots and lots of people are going through. And it's very challenging, but I would recommend that you think about first, like, what were some takeaways for you? I learned these things, and these were some things that were going on for me, and they're just not happening anymore. And like, you can trust me, I'm good here with you. And secondly, check in, like, how you doing? I love you. I'm going to be going, I'm doing this with my friends this afternoon. Just wanted to make sure, I love you. I'm thinking about you, without dropping into it in some kind of an obsessively vicious type of a cycle where you're consumed by that conversation.
Great. Thank you so much for that advice, Riana.
Okay, if you change nothing, nothing changes. The behavior of your gentleman is a lot of toxic childhood trauma, unhealed. It's very obvious to me. Boom. So the first step is you do something to change the relationship, because if you do nothing, nothing changes, right? I have had a lot of couples come in with one partner, the other one refuses. They change, and guess what? The relationship starts changing, because now you're learning about your childhood trauma, their childhood trauma, why they're jealous, why they're controlling, why they're checking their phone. Okay. And then now you can start having communication around it. Not always does partner 2 come in, but very often halfway through they ask to come in. So it is a couple situation, and you can't change what you don't know or understand. So he probably doesn't understand why he's so jealous, why he's controlling. It's a very subconscious type of thing when childhood trauma norms are in charge. So this is something you can't change in him without deep trauma healing work. You can't say, well, don't check my phone. You should just trust me. Well, there's something deep inside that's not allowing him to trust you. And that came from his childhood dynamics. So definitely take steps to you do something, showing him, I'm serious. This I will not accept anymore. I love you, but we are ready. I have to make some changes. So I'm going to start with myself. That's what I suggest for couples in this kind of toxic dynamic.
Powerful. And again, I can't emphasize enough the importance of reaching out for help. These are issues that, and we spoke about it very early on in our program, we were not raised, and Riana, you spoke of it, we weren't raised with knowing how to navigate relationship, with having the tools, with having the ability to communicate on the levels that the depth of relationships that we want really require. So reach for help. Amy, are we good with this? Can I move on?
Yeah, I just think that, when you're in that situation, as like Riana says, when you take responsibility for yourself and your own healing, people change around you. It's just that simple.
Yeah. Great. All right. This question. Does a person, oops, sorry, Ames, what was that?
We're at our time almost. Can we go into our speakers?
Oh, yes, we should.
Offerings
Yeah.
and how they support and what they're here for and all that. I love
Yes.
this part.
And so here's what I would like to say. For the person who sent this question in, Amy and I will address this and connect the dots, which follows this program immediately. So we'll make sure that this question gets addressed. All right. So yes, Paulina, would you please like to give your last messages to the audience and tell them all about the wonderful work that you do, and of course that they will be able to get all of your information
And your free gift, yes.
And oh yeah, share your free gift with us, and we'll have it all on in black and white for them as well. But please share with us.
Thank you. So I like to keep everything simple. My biggest key principle for, if you just take away one thing from everything I teach, is that choose men who choose you. And in other words, don't choose men who don't choose you. When you just follow this one simple principle, everything's going to shift for you. I'm sharing Love by Design Pyramid Guide, which is the only framework I use with all of my clients. That is the only tool. It's got very few simple steps. And that is the tool for how you can go from codependency, no man, dating the wrong man, all the way to the right relationship with the right man for you in just a few simple steps. So make sure you get that. And that is the only thing you need to do in dating to find the right person. Thank you.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Dr. Jane.
I am sharing the Intimacy Workshop, which is an online class to teach you how to have the talk effortlessly and comfortably, so that you can talk about sex and intimacy in your relationship without feeling ashamed or afraid. And I feel like that, again, is my gift to you. If I could give you the ability to have a communication style, a comfort, and ease in your body and yourself and your heart, to be able to share who you are as a sexual person, that will help you connect with yourself and with your partner.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And Riana.
I want to encourage you all to create the life you desire and have the love you deserve. Don't wait. Our time here is so short. And to help you do that, I actually have a class tonight, Thursday the 16th and Saturday the 18th, a free workshop called The Art and Psychology of Dating Successfully. It's going to be a 2-hour class, deep dive into the childhood trauma checklist and other assessments that show everything as far as how to heal this and how to go find emotionally healthy, evolved, and conscious love. Also, my website, rianamilne.com. You can sign up for the class there, as well as get my free ebook, How to Have the Love You Deserve. And I have free book chapter downloads about both my books, Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams. And my podcast is free. It's called Lessons in Life and Love with Coach Riana Milne.
How fantastic. Thank you so much. And with that, I actually would like to give away one more book before we leave.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Everybody just put your email and a color that comes into your mind. Let's try that.
A color.
A color.
We're really like, can I pull the color?
Yep.
Are people putting stuff in?
Yep.
Let me know when I can say the color.
Okay.
Purple.
That's the one I guessed, but I'm writing it down.
Oh my goodness.
Andrea, purple.
You got it. Okay,
Did
great.
she already win the other book?
Andrea said purple.
Yes. Did she win the other book? No. So Andrea, yes.
Okay, great. This is going to be, you're going to love, love, love this book. It is such a journey of the evolution of love in relationship. And it's just an amazing thing. Yep. And as you're reading, know that spiritual mentor is me. So it's so fun. Anyway, thank you all for being here, and thank you to our panelists. My God, you're just so wonderful and so generous. I want to remind everyone that these three wonderful women are here really sharing their hearts and souls with you. They are here obviously generously donating their time because their passion is so great, and that's why we have selected them to be here with us. Please thank them in the chat. Let them know how much you love and appreciate them. Let them know what it was for you. Any aha moments. And then, yeah, feel free to come over with us into Connect the Dots between Amy and I. You need only to just stay in the Zoom room with us, and we're going to dive even a little deeper into these things. Any of the panelists, if you'd like to stay, you're more than welcome. You're of course under no obligation, and we totally understand and are so grateful for the 2 hours that you have gifted us with your expertise and your amazingness. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so it's time for Connect the Dots.
Yes,
It's time for these aha moments, these what we gleaned from this. And if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box for people who are in the audience. We get straight to you, and we help support you with coaching or with new ideas and possibilities. And so this is Connect the Dots.
Yes, it is. And here we go. With that, I would like to ask the question that was the last one that was sent in to us previously.
Okay.
The question is, does a person have to be fully in love with themselves before they start dating again, or can they date while they're on the self-love journey? So I'm going to just jump right in with that one, because self-love has been my focus for the past 20 years. When I started to recognize from my perspective that this was really the key to particularly women, I think, having it all. So self-love is a journey. It's never completed, because self-love is an ever going process where you are recognizing all of the influences that have created these patterns, the conditions and programs from childhood that are influencing you. So they have
Salam, how are
molded.
you?
We
Yeah,
ask
no, I didn't
everyone.
go.
We ask everyone to please turn their microphones off. Okay, just while we're addressing this question. And so anyway, what I was saying is that we're never finished. As long as we're on the earth, we are on a self-love journey. It's a journey of discovering the true essence of our being, our worth, our value. And from my perspective, it is embracing the divinity within us and the birthright that is ours as a divine being of light and a creator of this world that we all want to live in. So, having said that, anyone else want to jump in on that? Amy?
Yeah, I'd like to jump in. Yeah, so let's talk about self-love. It's self-love. So in my own life, it was easy to be in love with myself. Like, I'm like, okay, this whole journey it's a journey. I'm loving myself more and more acceptance, more everything. But when I'm in partnership, that is when you really get challenged about your self-love. You get challenged about your ideas. You get challenged about your thoughts and what your boundaries are and who you're going to be. And that's the beautiful thing about being in a relationship.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely,
you actually grow, and if you get to hone in more self-love and more self-understanding and more empathy and self-acceptance and more of this openness to another human being.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
self-love is fine. It's beautiful. It's this thing that we all get to go, but it's also, I think, can be limited if you don't enter into partnership.
So it's very interesting you brought that up, Amy, because both A Course in Miracles and A Course in Love, which are, two programs that I really adhere to with the work that I do. And, you know, clearly they say that love is not fulfilled without partnership. And so when we look at, and, you know, the trends, as we spoke about today, and people opting out of partnership, there's an aspect of that where they're getting actually further and further away from their true nature.
Yeah.
And so, if partnership is fulfilled, if love is only fulfilled in partnership, then what that means is that we are obligated to put that to work for us. And you hit the nail on the head, you know, that self-love, we really learn about self-love in relationship, because we are learning about how to recognize, you know, when we throw ourselves under the bus, recognizing self-betrayal, and then watching how that plays out in everything that we create and the relationships there. So would anyone else, Riana or Dr.
Sure.
Jane? Yeah, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah. I'm also a follower of the Course in Miracles since I was 20 years old. I absolutely love that spiritual philosophy, and I'm also Reverend Riana. So I do totally believe that love is abundant. So it's not just self-love with a partner, it's self-love with your girlfriends, your family, your children, the people you might teach if you're a teacher. Like if you are showing and shining your love universally, you will see the world is so abundant for so many more partners to come to you. And this is why I stress, you know, love your friends, male friends and girlfriends, like your male friends that you love. Sooner or later, that could be your key love relationship, because you're taking all the pressure off the date, or are they the one, by just extending your heart light and your love, right? So when you have self-love, you'll always have then love for the other. So if you are sharing the love for the other, you will see the world is very abundant. You'll have plenty of people to choose to date.
Great. How about you, Dr. Jane? Anything you'd like to add?
I just think it's such an important concept, particularly in the area of sexuality, because we start with our own selves, with our bodies, and no other person can make us feel anything. It's all our own experience. And it's the opportunity to really purely love ourselves on the deepest level, that cellular level, and then connect with this other human being through our bodies. So I just think that self-love is absolutely crucial. And it's a challenge for us in our society, because oftentimes we've been told that there's something wrong with our bodies, particularly as women. So I just adore the concept. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure. And I would just like to add, as a reminder to everyone, you're actually in partnership with every person you come in contact with. And they also are on a self-love journey. So we're all at different phases, different parts of that journey. And of course, the issues that come up are meant to teach us more about ourselves, to reflect back to us where it is that we need to remember exactly who we are. So with that, I'd also like to address this question that comes to us in the chat from Peggy. And she asks, how does one navigate the dangerous waters of senior dating to find that safe harbor, e.g. a companion who really wants the love we have to give? Bingo. Amy.
Yeah, so I've been on Tinder and all that stuff for since 2015. And so navigating the apps, or navigating senior dating, online dating, if we're going to talk about online dating, it's really precarious to navigate those waters, because it doesn't matter how old you are. There's all scammers everywhere. There's people trying to scam me all the time when I was on the apps or whatever. So I just simply had a criteria, and the criteria was we had to meet. There's no, I don't want to text back and forth with you. I don't want to create this like this thing. No. When are we going out? We have to get on this date. I need to see you face to face because I need to know that you are real. And that I get to ask questions too. Like, are you, you know, I have in my profile, you know, I'm looking for a long-term relationship. I put my criteria down there very simply. And that I think the biggest thing was to get them on face to face as soon as possible, because we waste time emailing, texting, creating this fantasy story about this person that's not real. So I was like, I do coach women on dating. I'm like, let's get to face as soon as possible.
Thank
That
you for
would be
that.
that would be my recommendation.
Great. Dr. Jane.
I agree. And I think that voice verifying is something that I recommend to clients when I'm working with people. If that's a possibility, if you feel like you can do that comfortably, and just creating a space where you feel like you can be there and you can easily leave if it's not a fit for you. Just owning the fact that this may or may not be a good experience. And if you're liking it, then just stay in your body, meaning like stay embodied, be present with that person.
Thank you for that. Riana.
I want to go back to the point where become friends first. There are a ton of ways to meet singles. I just got off a singles cruise where I was speaking, 150 singles. Okay, so the world is plenty. It doesn't have to be dangerous if you know the rules. There's a lot of rules. Success in dating is really around the rules that you know to do and not to do. As Amy said, get the date, no chat relationship, get the last name before a phone call. By the third date, do a background check. There's a lot of rules to know. Just don't date blindly. Get educated, really important. But do make friends, meetup groups, great places for parties for single people. They don't feel dangerous. There's a bunch of people getting together and dancing and going out and having a great time. So don't limit yourself to only online. Do both online and in person. And, you know, that's really important to empower yourself with knowing exactly what to do. And if they ghost you, what I say is like, thank you, God, for showing me that one wasn't a good one. So it's all your attitude and your mindset around it.
Great. And if I could add, so in answering the question, how does one navigate the dangerous waters of senior dating? I would say that one of the most important things that you can do to mitigate that danger is to do as much inner work as possible on an ongoing fashion. So in other words, get support as you're going through that so that you have another set of eyes, another heart that's going to be able to help you to discern what you're experiencing and whether or not it is a dangerous situation for you or not. And I think that learning how to discern, so from my perspective, because my work comes from discerning energy, it's one of the most important things that we can learn to do. And so there are so many things to make certain that you are safe, but there's nothing more powerful than being safe within yourself. And, you know, Amy talked about, you know, getting to know yourself, you know, having healthy boundaries and being able to recognize, you know, with a really refined BS meter, all right, be able to pick that stuff up and then move on. Just be prepared to continually let go of what is not fitting your criteria, number one, and also what doesn't fit with what you want for yourself in that moment. How do you want to feel? Because that's really essential. So
I'm going to add one more thing, if I may.
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead.
You know, if you I put on my profile, like I'm good for like 1 or 2 texts and then let's meet. So it's good to put your expectation about the communication that you expect to have before you meet so that people can self-select out. And that saves you a lot of time. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of people you're communicating with over and over. So I would put like, I think I put like, I'm good for 1 or 2 texts and then let's meet or get on a phone or something like that. So I think putting that out there in front is, because the scammers will be like, oh no, she's not gonna play. Right?
Yep.
So yeah.
They know you mean business.
And I always do. I always
We know that. The one thing I always say about Amy is she takes no prisoners. Just what you see is what you get. So having said that, I don't see any more questions in the chat. We would love to hear some of your aha moments in the chat. And actually, I'd like to start with Riana. Did you have any aha moments during the program?
Always. I think everybody's sharing is right on. And it's a great combination of experts here that I think your listeners got a whole ton of value today. And I hope that they take advantage of all the free gifts, because it's just wonderful that you offered this today. I'm just happy to have heard all of it.
Okay, great. Dr. Jane, how about you? Were there any aha moments or moments that caused you to pause and say, oh, I want to think a little bit more about that?
Well, I just love the warmth that the speakers brought, and I'm always intrigued and interested in Riana's detailed and fascinating understanding of childhood trauma. I loved talking about the Course in Miracles, and just you, Amy, bringing your personal experience was really helpful and interesting to me to kind of remember and think about, like just listening to you talk about the patriarchy and how it's, impacting us all. And I loved listening to Paulina talk about her interesting system that she uses for evaluating and figuring out compatibility. I think that's really interesting. So you created and curated a gorgeous connection of people, and I think that it should be very helpful, and helpful definitely for me as a person and as someone who works in this field. So thank you so much for including me.
No, it was our joy and our honor. Thank you. Thank you for being
fun.
here. Amy, how about you? Did you have any aha moments or anything that you would like to spotlight from the program?
Yeah, I think with Dr. Jane, like, what do you want? That she was the first to pose that question. And it's something that we don't ask ourselves enough of. What do you want in this situation? What do you want in that situation? And because we get to then create that vision around it, and then how are we actually going to get there is the next thought. And also, as I say, as Riana was talking about all the traumas, I was like, yeah, I like it. I love it because it humanizes us, and it makes us realize, again, as I always say, everybody's on their own path. Let's not try to oversimplify that. There's complexity in being human. And when we respect that, then things begin to change. It's when you think you shouldn't be this, you shouldn't do that, and you shouldn't, or couldn't, it's like, no, just allow for that awareness that no one's perfect. No one's here to serve you specifically. No one's here to like make you feel comfortable. These are all that's all your responsibility in life. To really know your path, love your path, have purpose on your path, and a vision for your path. I think that's what really kind of came up from those two conversations of Riana and Dr. Jane, that, let's not oversimplify life.
Mm-hmm.
It really does people a disservice. I think that is a really good, I think it's a really good direction for all of us to take. We sometimes just sort of, glide over things and say, oh, well, that's just the way it is. Or, we take things in stride, when in truth, so many things need us to pause and to really reflect on it. And because we need to ask that question all the time, well, what does this mean to me? And is this what I want to be experiencing? What do I need to create differently? Riana, you spoke about, doing things differently in order to get a different result. If we're not consciously aware of what we are experiencing, we won't do that. We will just glide through life without having given it us. We will be the ones who are missing from our own lives. And so this is so essential, that awareness that was spoken about. We need to remember how important that is. Really being in a place where we have great compassion for ourselves. And Dr. Jane, you spoke about, the importance of not beating ourselves up, not, putting ourselves down, but using it right then and there as a teaching tool for us, and a tool which empowers us so that we can become, and Amy and I distinguish between this all the time, so that we can become empowered. And it's a difference between having information and knowing information and how to use it. So that whole awareness piece I was so happy that that was emphasized. We have a comment in the chat. Julie says, thank you for normalizing my many questions about this topic. This goes to the heart of much of my self-doubt over the years, and it's great to have it all out in the open. This self-doubt is what we have all lived in, and we've been subjugated by it. We've been diminished by it out of fear of judgment, out of fear of being punished, out of fear of being ostracized or abandoned. We are in this together. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Julie. Kathy says a lot of social structures for later in life have to do with partners, kids, and grandkids. If one doesn't have that, how should one plan? Oh my God, what a great question. Dr. Jane, you want to take that question?
Yes, the question of how to hold these ideas and as we're going forward. I just have a new grandbaby myself.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, it's just, we're on this walk together. We're, it's a constantly changing dynamic that we're in. And, it's interesting to see how I and other people I know, my cohort, my friends who are also grandmas, how we hold and think about being in partnership with our husbands, with our lovers, and how we imagine what it means to be a grandma who's also a sexual being. I mean, there's just so many things about the life's walk that we're on that I think are really fascinating.
I agree with you. I'm also a grandmother, and I'm a single grandmother, and nice. I am not the grandmother that my grandmother was or her mother was. In other words, yeah, I am, an enigma to much of my family, and probably a constant source of confusion. And I think there's also a level of distrust. So this is something we need to speak about, because when we are demanding that people adhere to particular roles or role models, we are negating them as people, but we're also punishing them for any sense that there's something outside of it, when in fact, every single one of us is here on this journey of self-actualization. How can we not even complete, but how can we be in the process of self-actualization and giving all of our energy to trying to adhere to a role or a model of who I should be, just to appease you, just to make life more comfortable for you? I lived that for many years, and I suffered terribly for it, mentally, physically, emotionally. And so I love this question. And what I want to say to you is, do everything in your power to be as authentic as possible, and to not allow anyone to determine how you should be expressing you in your life?
Agreed.
So, yeah, that's a great question.
I'm
Let
going to
me
jump
see.
in here because
Yeah.
just to be clear, she doesn't have that social structure. So,
And that's what I was going to say.
yes, I don't have that social structure either.
Yep.
I chose not to have children, and I chose, and my partnerships, I did not go the convention. I was married for 3 years, and then I was like, I'm out. And then I had a fiance who I loved, and then he passed away. So I've been alone most of my life on some level, or in short-term partnerships. I don't have children, which, again, that was a choice. So what does my life get to be like? Pretty exciting.
Yeah.
It means that I get to, there's a lot of open road. There's not a lot of conditions put on me. There's not a lot of naysayers around me. There's not a lot of like obligations that I have to give to other people. So I get to really figure out who I want to be. And that's like going back to school when I was 43. That's what I did. Started my business at 50. That's what I did. Started, public speaking, went up to a meetup, Toastmasters, got enrolled, showed up. There was no one to stop me from that. There's no social obligations. I had the freedom to make choices in my life about who I wanted to be and who I wanted to show up as after a traumatic death in my life. So you get to, Kathy, you get to decide what your social structure is going to be, who you're going to be. And it's never too late to start anew. I never had the thought, I'm too old to go to school. I thought, I'm going back to school because I need to do something. So I'm going back, right? Or at 50, I'm too old to start a business. I never had those thoughts, and you don't have to either. You get to change and your mindset about what's your purpose on this earth? Why are you here? And who do you get to be? And it's all endless. You get to choose.
Yeah. And also, just to let you know that you clearly are not alone.
Yeah.
So here's a statistic for you. The Office for National Statistics shows that women not living in a couple who never married are rising in every age range under 70. And I would even include over 70. In the decade and a half between 2002 and 2018, the figure for those aged 40 to 70 rose by 500,000. The percentage of never married singletons in their 40s has doubled by 2021. So the whole, premise that the old maid, right,
I'm an old maid right now.
Yeah, was someone that, just nobody ever loved her. She never, got to experience what everybody is supposed to experience in life, all of that. It's over. The jig's up. It's all part of this false belief system that everyone has really forced upon us.
Yeah.
And like I said, every step along the way, your one job is to be authentically you. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Be authentically you and embrace every part of life. Like Amy said, there's no such thing as being too old for anything. I also started my business after 50, and everything just continues on because I live every single day to its fullest, that's humanly possible. And
well, there's got to be Netflix breaks too, okay?
Oh, yeah, of course. But that's part of it. It's deciding when I want to watch Netflix, But it is, it's all about not allowing the ancient social constraints to regulate your life. And it's up to you to let go of that.
Yeah,
nobody else. It's not society's fault, right? That they have it. It's up to you to decide what you want. And as I said earlier, from my perspective, self-love is learning how to cultivate the courage to create a self-love lifestyle so that you no longer are living life for anyone else. You're living it for you to be the best expression of you possible at any given moment. So thank you so much, everyone. Is there anything else, Amy, that you want to bring up, or
I think we
are
hit
we
it.
ready to rock and roll?
We are ready. I think we covered a lot today. I don't
We
know,
sure did.
If everyone has any questions in the chat, you can put the chat box
Yeah,
real quick.
feel
or,
free.
Or we are going to close this segment.
Yeah, and also I just want to encourage everyone to please, you'll be getting information about our membership program. It's so outstanding. And the opportunity to be in a workshop, in a very relaxed situation where you are part of the conversation with us is invaluable. I mean, it's just incredible. Even sometimes Amy and I look at each other and say, oh my God. And what I say about Amy all the time, you are awesome, Amy.
Oh,
and I
thank you.
love you. And I'm so grateful to be partnered with you in this way and to have found this wonderful platform for us to share our hearts because we're really heart-centered women. So thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. Did anyone want to jump in with a question or? Oh, when you shared about the singles rising, can you elaborate more in terms of wellness or in pursuing their dreams?
Sure.
Well, I think, yeah. So I think when you're reading your statistics, I think was what Nadia is talking about, right? Nadia is that,
okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if the statistics are in that, but as a single person, I could tell you, as I just said earlier, that it is really the opportunity to cultivate your self-love. It's your opportunity to cultivate your potential. It's your opportunity to cultivate your dreams and who you really want to be. It's, you know, it's like you're uninterrupted on some level. There's no interruptions in your life that take away your energy, your thoughts, and your ability to create. And we get to shift into that mindset. Believe me, I'm in partnership now. Now I'm like, oh my God, I got to figure this out. This is time consuming. This is not what I'm used to necessarily. So that we get, when you're in this self, it is a self-love, it is a self-empowerment, it is this grounding and embodiment of who you are really, and how to really cultivate that and really create the resilience to bring that forward in your life and your dreams, and to let go of your past and what doesn't serve you. That is where you curate this wellness and this freedom and this openness that we all desire. I mean, I wanted it so bad for so many years.
Yeah.
And it took a tragedy to make it happen. And sometimes we forget that. It took this total disruption, just took me out to ground zero for me to be here today.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Nada, I would like to read something to you. Oh, she made a comment. I have read that single women live longer. We know why. Okay. So I want to read this to you. It comes from a book. I just read it this morning. It's Revelations of Love called the Black Madonna Diaries book. And it says this. Number one, every time you ignore the desires of your heart, you block the divinity of your future. Realize that your dreams or your purpose, right, are the stepping stones of your true purpose in life, and your passion is the fuel which manifests them. So what does that mean in terms of being a single? what that means is that we are given this privilege of this life, and it has nothing to do with our relationship status. It's being in relationship with life itself, recognizing that all things, like Amy just said, you know, that tragedy brought her to where she is today. It's recognizing that all things are always working in our favor. Every relationship, especially those ones that you look at as failures, no, they were there to really teach you so much. And the most important lesson is about where we're out of alignment with our truth. Because once we understand that that's the only thing that we're being called back to over and over and over again, then the pursuing of dreams, your wellness, it's all part of that alignment. It comes into alignment all on its own, but it requires you. I want to read one more line here. It says, thus, don't bring anyone or anything into your life without a request from your heart. Otherwise, you are living in falsehood. The true lies are the ones that you make to yourself. Others' lies are of no avail because they don't really affect you. And that's what I was saying. Doesn't matter what kind of pressure society puts on you. That's their problem. Your issue is, what do you want for yourself? And what are you willing to do? How are you willing to live? Are you willing to be committed to you and living your life as the greatest expression of who you are? Because that's where it's at. All of that wellness, all of that, you know, fulfillment and purpose and love that you want to experience is right there. So.
And it ain't always easy, but that's okay.
No,
Let's
it's
just put that out
never
there.
easy. Okay, let's cut to the chase. It's
Cut to the
never
chase.
easy.
It challenges you, you know.
It challenges us because, and this is where I always make the distinction between self-care and self-love. Self-care is, those are all the things we do to soothe ourselves and comfort ourselves, and they feel great. Self-love takes you out of your freaking comfort zone. It has other demands of you because it's always leading you to be your most authentic self. And we're not comfortable with that. It's not the way we've been raised. But we must be so precious to ourselves. We must cherish ourselves so that we are willing to do whatever that takes. So much love to all of you. You're so welcome, each and every one of you. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy days to be with us. We know how precious time is. And we're so thrilled that you know how precious you are by giving this time, this gift to yourselves to be your best selves. So thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you next month. And we've got another hot topic.
Yep.
All right. So much
Marcy.
love to you. Bye-bye now.
Marcy.
Goodbye.
What am I doing with my life here?